everybody. Nice to share silence. As we're rounding out Root Chakra Month, I'm preparing to leave for Arkansas on Tuesday. I'm going to spend a week in Hot Springs. It's not somewhere that I would normally think I'd want to go. Although Hot Springs, yes. Arkansas, not so much. There's been, perhaps a steeping in a cultural conditioning of being from New York and, hearing certain things and aspects about certain parts of the country. I go, yeah, I'm good. Maybe I'll drive through. But when your spiritual mother moves there, you go, okay. And she moved from Santa Barbara, California, to Hot Springs, Arkansas. And I said, Elizabeth, you're killing me. I got to come visit. I got to visit, and if I'm going to do something, if I have a week to go someplace, it's to teach partner yoga in Santa Barbara. That's a beautiful place to go. Time to open and expand my horizons. Arkansas is apparently one of the most affordable places to live in the country, and there's some really unspoiled nature. And there's also Hot Springs. The town itself is plopped right in the middle of a national forest. So there's a lot of beauty and a lot of light, and that's what I'm hoping to be able to go and restore and replenish. But also to do some spirit work. This is the first time I'm going to be with Elizabeth and not have to teach or work. Normally I do trainings with her. I support her through the trainings. We teach a Kripalu together. So we have a beautiful, professional relationship. But over the past now 6 years that I've known and worked with her, she's become very much in alignment as a spiritual mother on this plane of existence. So sometimes when we are born into our families of origin, we kind of grow up going, how did I get here? How exactly was it that I came through this place and this, my mother, choosing my mother, my physical mother as my portal into this plane? It was an interesting karma. I've always felt like from the time that I was very little that I was not really born into the right family or time or place, mostly because I just kept presenting. I asked too many questions. I would present myself as the other. I always felt very much other than. My brothers and my sister were definitely more in alignment with the whole construct of our family. But I didn't, give up. If there's something that I have, it's like kind of an angry determination to be seen and heard, and I don't walk away easily. I don't give up. I have this kind of like stubbornness about me that I just want to be seen and heard and respected for who I am, while seeing and hearing and respecting others and who they are. So when I grew up in this way and just kind of always had this butting of heads, my mother and I especially, from the time that I say it was like when I turned 12 to 21, it was basically like bookends of those numbers, that we could not be in a room with each other without kind of like going at it. There would just be, a look, an attitude. She would just kind of like make these comments about how I looked, how I dressed, how I kept my room. For those, who maybe have had like similar experiences, I have said, it's like I talk about my Italian mother and they go, she sounds like she was Jewish, or she sounds like she was Irish, or she sounds like I was like, I know. It's kind of like that. You just insert any, stereotypical, overbearing, mother. When I was 13 years old, at that point, my room was covered in posters of all the bands that I loved, but also like Half Naked Men. I just had this thing for like, if anybody remembers like going to Spencer's and like looking through like the posters, and it was like, maybe I was thinking like what poster would piss off my mother the most, but I probably wasn't going there. It was just, I was like, I loved physical beauty and, looking at these beautiful like pictures of like, half naked men like holding kittens. It was like I had a thing for like, there was like the picture of this like man holding a baby, and I was like, oh, it's so beautiful. It was this black and white. I thought they were like tasteful, but it was also like The Cure and Nine Inch Nails and like Jane's Addiction. And so it's, Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses. And, there were all of these like mixed mashed, things. And I stressed her out. She definitely, I pushed the envelope more than one way. And I came home one day from school, and all my room had been completely demolished. All of the posters had been not just taken down, but ripped down and shoved into a garbage can. And then she was sponge painting my room, not kidding, salmon pink. And bought new bedspreads and new things and said, "This is my house and you live in it. So this is how this room will be, and this is what it will be like." And it was like, okay, so as soon as I'm humanly able, I'm getting the fuck out of here. It was like, got it. As soon as I am humanly able, that's what's happening. So I got a job at 15, started saving money, like moved out at, I went to college, but worked all through college and made sure I got engaged young. I got married young. It was like, get me out of here, get me out of here, get me out of here. So as soon as I could put that type of a separation between, I was gone. But then I still, stayed connected because I'm not a jerk and I love my family. And if there's something that I am is also a perpetual optimist. I have, I pray to Our Lady of Perpetual Hope. It's like, well, maybe they'll see me. Maybe they'll change. Maybe at some point I will be able to be myself and not be ridiculed and not be, talked down to or not be made fun of or, maybe. It didn't really come, except that at some point there was she realized, and it came after my divorce, when that really rocked the whole family, and, you just suffer in silence. That's what marriage is, to the bitter end. It's like, you don't give up. We're not quitters. And it's like, but maybe you should be at this point, maybe. Like, maybe? So my divorce was kind of like the first one in the family, and like to rock the whole system of, no, actually, maybe when you're young, that's when you should do it so that you have a chance at starting over. So maybe that's what we should do. So it was a very tense time, and my partner is also 20 years older than me, so then that also came up with a whole bunch of other, rocking things. It was like, oh, people are going to think you have daddy issues. I was like, trust me, if they meet him for 5 minutes, they'll recognize that he's not a replacement for dad. It's like, he's a completely opposite human being, but, I digress. There's all of this energy, and after the divorce, it was very intense, and she kind of like gave me an ultimatum. Well, it's either move back home, you should sell your house, you can't afford it, he's with you, but he'll just find another place to live. And you should move back home, rent-free, and, we'll take care of you, and then, you'll get back on your feet. And I was at that point at, let's see, that was 8 years ago, so my early 30s. And I said, Mom, I love you, and I appreciate the fact that I will never be homeless, but I will work 3 jobs before I move back into this house and have you tell me what it is that I'm going to do with my life. I will work in McDonald's than do that. And she was like, but I don't understand, but why? And I said, because that would be like moving backwards. There is no moving backwards for me. I cannot. I love you. I appreciate you. I respect you. I know I will never be homeless, but that will never happen. And we didn't speak for a little while. And when I say a little while, it was about 3 weeks that she could go. I said, if you tell me that you are going to sit here every time we get together and you're going to tell me about how I should leave the person that I am with and how I should, none of my instincts are correct and that you want me to just completely change everything that is about me as a person, I'm going to tell you I'm not going to be able to spend time with you. So I really need you to stop telling me I'm a grown woman. I know who I love. I know who I am. And I love you and I respect you. And I need you to stop. Because unless you can be a positive influence in my life and supportive of where I'm at right now, I need you to back up. And she backed up for 3 weeks. And then started calling again and just kind of like, easing her way in and not talking about anything. And then then there was the campaign to get my godmother to try to like, well, maybe she can talk to her. And then so they all tried from every angle to get me to leave Drew. And it was like, it's not going to happen, guys. I love you, and I'm a grown person, and I love you, and. So when we have these relationships, it's like families of origin. can be very challenging, and that you can try to reach them or try to be respected or try to get that respect. And I just had to keep sending back this unconditional love, boundaries, unconditional love, boundaries, unconditional love. There's a boundary and unconditional love. So I kept at it, and it worked, as well as it could work. I had as nice of a relationship and as close of a relationship as I could have with my mother before she passed, and there were still aspects of myself, and there was still work that I wanted to do, and there was still more connection that I wanted to have, but we don't always get what we want. So I feel really grateful for the time that I did have. And going to see now Elizabeth in Arkansas is like, okay, I'm going to kind of go with this intention of finding now that I don't have my biological mother. It's like, where's the mother energy that I can get in my life? And Mother Nature is definitely one of them too. So feeling really grateful and grounded about that. And then I decided yesterday, I have a living parent. My father lives in Montauk, and it's a complicated relationship. It was not one that was ever really there emotionally. Physically very present always, but emotionally not really. There's like maybe 5 conversations I've had with my father, and I'm 40, so it's like there's conversations of like actual information, and in terms of spirit communicating or like trying to like see each other on that level. And it's challenging, but I continue to show up. And I told him I was going away, and he said, "Oh well, I ran out of sauce." That was maybe it was about 2 months ago that I went out and I made him a pot of sauce and meatballs and everything, and that I don't eat, which is also, that's love. When you can spend 3 hours in a kitchen cooking something that you don't eat and then handing it over and saying, "Love you." So he'd say, "Well, I'm running out of sauce." I said, "Okay. You want me to come? Well, when are you going to come out?" I said, "Well, I got to figure it out. I'm going away." And yesterday happened to present itself as a day trip opportunity. And when I say day trip opportunity, I teach and then could get the kids and then pack them up and get their friends and head out for the day and make some sauce and turn around and come back so that I could teach today. But I did it. And I said, the only thing I ask for when I'm there, Dad, is that you be in the kitchen with me. Cook, you don't have to like cook, but just like be in the kitchen with me as I am cooking. That's all I ask. He never did that, even for my mom. I mean, my mom would just cook and serve it. So while wherever he was, at the boat or fishing or working, or it was like that was the arrangement. So me making this request was, I thought, well, maybe he'll meet it, maybe he won't. We made meatballs together. And it was like, wow, this is new. And he was asking me about things, and we were working together in the kitchen. And it was kind of like it had occurred to me at that exact moment that if my mother was not gone, this moment would never occur. So some things start to happen and certain things change when you start to accept what it is that you have and what you've been given and not what you wished for. So if there's a root chakra understanding of your family of origin, it's that you get what you get, and you do the best you can, and that these people, have histories and lives, and if we want to be welcomed and loved without judgment or criticism, then we have to be willing to show up and meet people where they are. And in that way, my father was not really able to show up in a lot of ways emotionally or mentally for me my entire life. But now, now there's this opportunity. It's a golden opportunity, and I'm taking it. And I could be bitter, and I could be pissy, and I could say, well, it's still not enough, and it's still not good enough, or it's still too little, too late. There are many people who live their lives by that kind of position. And especially as you get older, it's like, unless you have, it's either that or the halo effect happens. Like, okay, well, let's just forget all of the bad and just pretend that it never existed, and let's just, put on our happy faces and smile for Facebook and pretend that our families are perfect, and they're not. So because I deal in truth, there's only so much, swallowing of the bitter pill that I can do before I need to speak. And in that way, it was really very powerful to have these moments with my dad yesterday and, not just break down. So as I'm sitting there making meatballs, and then I can feel the tears kind of like welling up behind my eyes. And I knew at that moment, I was like, don't let him see you cry. Because if he starts to see you cry, he's going to leave. That it was like, I don't know if I can hold this back in this moment, and I can't wipe it out of my eyes because I got meat all over my hands. So it just started to happen. And that was, it was like a moment, and he felt it. And then within, 10 minutes, he was like, all right, I'm going down to the boat. I'll see you in a little bit. It's like, all right, Dad, love you. See you later. But when he came back home and he opened the door and the smell of sauce, kind of hits you in the face, it was like he was coming home to my mom cooking. So it was a really beautiful time, and there's like hope. Even if it's not exactly what you want, there's still hope for you to kind of open these doors and windows to each other, even if they've passed, even if they've left the body, because this is something that now I'm like redefining my relationship with my mother outside of her body. And I find that I talk to her a lot more, and I'm a lot more honest with her, outside of the body now, because I just can be. It's like talking out loud. You can just do these things. And, there's hope. It's like tender hopes and all kinds of stuff, but I'm also, I'm cautiously optimistic. I say cautiously optimistic. It's like there's hopes of the little girl, and then there's like the intention of a woman. And in this moment, it's like, in the intention of a woman, I understand. My father is probably never going to give me the exact relationship that I really desire or desired as a child, but I can create something new if I'm able to stay in the intensity of the experience and not judge or criticize or shut down or blame or go into, the spinning out pattern of whatever. If I can stay present and I can create this new intentional relationship, then we're going to go somewhere, and it's going to be a really powerful thing. So if you have relationships in your life that are complicated, and I say that, usually our family of origin relationships are not straight lines. If there's, somebody that you haven't spoken to in a while, biological parents that you're not connected to, there's still a lineage there. There's still something that you were meant to come through this family. There's a reason. What is it? You can ask some questions. You can ask for some guidance. You can ask for some space to maybe find forgiveness or compassion inside of yourself. Maybe it's about reaching out. If we want to create the container for the actual healing to happen of our ancestors and of our lineage, and we really want to live in freedom from these cultural conditionings or these patterns of behavior, if we're really interested in breaking the cycle, then we have to be the ones to actually hold the container. We have to be the ones, if we have more information, then we need to be the ones to do that. And it's not from a holier than thou place. I do not think that I am better than my father. I do not think that I am better than my mother. I just think that I had different resources, and I had a different support network, and I just had more moxie. I don't know. I was just born with a little bit more of this ability to kind of fight back. And I don't know why. I don't know why sometimes it comes through in the ways that it does, but it does sometimes. So if you're given a particularly charged relationship, it's because you're also maybe strong enough to actually change it where they weren't. So when we see these difficulties, kind of take a moment and then look at it. If my mother hadn't died, I wouldn't have had that moment with my father yesterday. It's a very bitter pill to swallow, but it's true. So when you're practicing, if you can kind of invoke this energy of, can I see something different? Can I find a new way out? Can I at least change the internal dialogue so that I can be more at peace with what this is? That's really the what this practice can give you if you can approach it from that perspective. So let's close our eyes and come inside if you haven't done so already. And first, just to kind of take a moment to ground into what you are feeling about that. Maybe there's a particular relationship that's right up for you. And if there isn't, then just really ground in connection to yourself. As we root and lift, we scan the body from head to toe, noticing if there's any physical component, edge, chronic pain. Like, I am my mother's daughter. I have her bones and arthritis, and This weather makes my hips sing. She used to say that. So what is it inside of you that you can feel that's both yours and someone else's? And we don't judge it or criticize it. We just accept it. It's what we got. As you inhale, really flood all the way down to the pelvic floor, illuminating that. And then let it go. Releasing and relaxing. So take a few breaths just like that. If you want to sound or sigh on the exhale, please honor it. A few more times. Last one. And then start to layer in your deep Ujjayi breathing. Ujjayi is an oceanic sound constricting the back of the throat on the inhales and the exhales. Will help you to digest and process physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever information we receive. We set our collective intentions to bear witness to this body, to where we've come from, not just in this life, but our ancestors, to call up any of these challenges and to genuinely witness, can we see where we've come from without judgment or blame, and to create a new space for understanding and a cautious optimism for rewriting these patterns. We'll open the practice by chanting Om 3 times together. Inhale deeply for Om. Om for where we've come from. Om for who we are now. Om for who we are becoming. Allow your eyes to softly float open. And roll over onto your hands and knees, coming into your tabletop position for your cat-cow.